Hey, it's Drybear. A fairly large hotfix has been implemented in the First Descendant, making changes to several of the Descendants and also added in new modules and making some changes that may or may not surprise you. The first change is a big one, quite literally, and so what they did is they increased basically all of the consumable item limits. I think people had kept complaining over and over on items that may be too stacked, and you also may be able to just have what I have right here. You go to your mailbox and you go to your lost and found, and you're just full of extra like shape stabilizers and stuff that you couldn't accept before. And that's because they have gone and made most of the consumable item caps 100,000. So if you go to your mastery rank, you can actually see this going up for the shape stabilizers. So it's actually pretty small for the lower levels, but as you get up to like 14 is 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7, 8,000, 9,000, at level 20, you get 100 million. And it just stays at 100 million all the way up to the maximum here at mastery rank 30. So you have maximum of 100 million shape stabilizers, and they've done the same for a lot of these other ones as well. So things like like void shards and stuff like that. Most of the consumables in the game have a maximum now of 100 million, just to solve the issue of people having getting to the cap and not being able to farm. However, there's an exception, and that is the ETA vouchers. So the ones you get for doing the 400% dungeons, the one you get for selling duplicate blueprints, and the ones you get for doing the abyss missions. All of these are hard capped. You will get a maximum of these, and they decided not to change that. Now, they do mention that a lot of these do buy things like skins or things that show up in the shop, and so they don't want people hoarding these. They want you to log in, get enough to be able to get what you need, and then have to log in again the next week to get more without having to just be able to hoard them completely. So that is the big exception. These will maintain their current cap limit on the ETA vouchers, but pretty much all of the other consumables in the game have a maximum now of 100 million, which is excellent. They also updated the 400% dungeons to drop 40 Void Abyss metal fragments instead of 20. We talked about this in the Q&A yesterday, but they very much intended the people to get the most amount of Void Abyss metal fragments with a highly optimized defiler like Void Abyss build. So they do want you doing that. So, you can get a maybe dungeon done in 2 minutes and you can get 40 Void Abyss fragments for that. But you can also do a defiler if you're perfectly optimized in like 30 seconds and get, 50 to 70 from that. And they said that's fine. That's what they wanted. They wanted there to be more value in defiler killing and also more group play there. So if you are someone who's like, not at the higher end, content creators, that sort of thing that have been playing the game a while, you will have to do these 400% dungeons to get these. And yes, you do need a lot of them, but ultimately working towards being able to do Void Abyss regularly will give you a higher income of the Void Abyss metal fragments. The next thing to be aware of is they are adding in new login gifts through the weekend. So if you are thinking about not logging in this weekend, make sure that you do. So the way this is going to work is they've set it up for tonight, like late tonight. So basically overnight if you're on the Western hemisphere, but basically going into Saturday. So like 11 p.m. Pacific time going into Saturday, they will be giving away a reward here, which you can see is quite extensive. 1,000 Void Abyss metal fragments, gold like boosts, ion accelerators, fine adjustment, control accesses, 2 million gold, and 200,000 Kuiper. And the way they have this listed here is that it's going to be given 3 different times. Once Friday night, once Sunday night, and once Tuesday night. So you want to make sure that you grab those, and they will expire a couple days later. So this is a significant, it's going to be 3,000. Assuming these are duplicated every time, which is how they have it listed here. 3,000 Void Abyss metal fragments, bunch of boosters, a bunch of gold, like 6 million gold, 600,000 Kuiper. So you want to make sure you're logging in Friday night, Sunday night, and Tuesday night PST in order to get these rewards in game, as they will be a big boon for your account. They also nerfed the elite trackers. You may not know these by name, but they are the floating guys that shoot the freezing projectiles that when they land, usually, especially on Void Erosion, they will one-shot you. So they normally shoot 5, and they usually will instantly freeze when they hit you. So instead of shooting 5 of the freezing projectiles, they will now shoot 3, which is kind of nice and should help them a lot with the Void Erosion. And they've also added in more cover to the Void Erosion Purge. This is most notable on the like level 20 map, that open map with like a lot of open space. A lot of times you can just get shot at, and some of the elites in there can actually use abilities that go through walls as well. So having more space to play around with is going to help some more builds be able to utilize that space placed properly. They've also added in 3 new launcher-related rounds. These will increase the explosion radius on them, and in some cases will have either negative in the case of expanded or low pressure shells, and in some cases ammo optimization will give you a little bit more rounds per magazine. But the goal of these is to increase the radius if you'd like to. It is a brand new category, so it won't conflict. And despite what you might be seeing online, I've seen some people mention how these mods work, and a lot of what I've seen isn't actually correct. It is increasing the explosion radius, which means it's just making the explosion bigger. Now, explosions, like everything else in the game, is subject to damage fall off, which means that the closer to the center of the explosion you are, the more damage you will deal, and the further from the center you are, like towards the outside, the less damage it will fall off. It's the same system that functions on rifles and pistols and sniper rifles, that as they get farther and farther away, the damage will fall off and become less. So you might be seeing some different numbers because of the explosion radius, getting bigger, but that just means that you're probably getting closer to the center more consistently, which means that you are getting more of the true full damage from the damage fall off. But these specifically don't increase the damage of the weapon at all. It just makes them more consistent and gives them a bigger explosion, which I think is nice. It should make them be able to clear rooms. There's even, I've seen some people mess around with like launcher builds that might be able to be more of a mobbing setup, because in some cases, how are you going to match the overall expanded radius of like a bunny or an Inez or a Freyna when you're using a weapon? And the answer is you really can't. They're also making some general like small quality of life improvements, like moving the dismantle icon for the fellow, made improvement to Void Erosion Purge, where you don't spawn in place, you actually spawn back at the initial beginning part of the Void Erosion, so you actually can spawn in a safe spot, which I think is a nice change as well. They also added a button that moves you to the next stage immediately after completing a Void Erosion Purge. And I haven't tried this yet in a party. I'm wondering if this means that you can then take your current party and queue for the next Void Erosion, because this was what was preventing people from doing this in the first place, is the fact that you had to back out. So maybe you can now do public Void Erosion on the accepted public matchmaking stages, and then if everyone in the group hits next, maybe it still works. I haven't tried it yet. Let me know if you've tried this out with like public, not like a pre-made match, but like actually queuing with randoms in public and then having everybody hit the button. Hopefully this gives people that are playing in random matches with random people online a chance to be able to go from stage to stage, which I think is really cool. Now, I'm not going to go through the full list of bug fixes and changes, but it's worth mentioning where we're at right now with this Luna bug fix. Most of the fixes have been good, but this one actually has a lot of people in an uproar right now. So the fix reads as: fix an issue where disabling Luna's unique weapon fails to remove exciting performance, relaxing performance, and cheerful performance. So from their perspective, this was a bug. It was always intended for Luna to cancel her unique weapon, which would then cancel her song. However, this is something that a lot of people were using as part of the core gameplay for Luna, because it allowed Luna to be able to start a song, amp it, and then remove her unique weapon and use her normal weapon in order to get her, then bring her unique weapon back and do that sort of thing to be able to dance through it. So this one actually has a lot of people pissed off right now, because they basically made Luna worse by fixing this bug, which no one even thought was a bug in the first place. You have posts like, this is one of those bugs that should have been made into a feature. This actually allowed Luna to buff and maintain the ring for a while after putting away her speaker. Why do they hate this character so much? This is the time where the devs should have noticed that no one was complaining about it and left it alone, just took the credit for it as if it was intended behavior. Just call it what it is, absolute BS. They released a character that can literally hit stuff through walls, yet Luna can't get this one simple thing that was a net positive to her gameplay. I'm convinced they have no idea what they're doing balance-wise. Now, obviously, take all this with a grain of salt. I think there's just a lot of Luna mains that are rough, and I think honestly, Magnum has a good history so far of being able to correct issues as they come up, and I'm sure they'll notice that there's a lot of outrage around this Luna bug being fixed and be adjusted, and they also notice that people are generally okay with the changes for Luna, but still not happy enough with where she is right now. So hopefully this gets adjusted soon. So stay tuned for further updates if they do decide to address this in the short term. Now, that was the hotfix, but with the hotfix, they gave us some previews on what's coming for February 6th. Now, in a previous video, I covered how they are going to be adding more floors to the Void Erosion Purge, as well as higher levels of augmentation cores. And honestly, I would recommend people just not even do augmentation cores right now. Save your cores and then wait until the higher level cores are out, and then implant those those into your weapons, because then you're going to save yourself some of the Void Abyss fragment materials while you do that once it's actually out. So this is coming out February 6th in just a couple weeks, or just like 2 weeks here. This will be coming out, and they're going to be adding 10 tiers of augmentation cores. Right now we only get up to 7. They're going to go to 30 stages of Void Erosion Purge, and then allow you up to level 10 of the augmentation cores, which means those stat values are going to get better if you do the higher level cores. So save your materials right now until February 6th when we get the higher levels from that as well. Now granted, the Vulgus right now I think are level 250 at level 20, so they're going to keep going higher and higher. They already do a large amount of damage, and it may be really pushing and punishing to get builds that work all the way up to 30 on that, but I think the level 10 cores are going to be worth it. However, that doesn't mean you're stuck if you can't do higher. They do have this UI they showed off here. They talked about this a little bit earlier as well, but this is going to allow you to combine 3 of a kind plus a specific material to be able to craft the next higher tier. So you can see this goes up to 10 here, but if you had 3 6s, you can turn that into a 7. If you had 3 7s, you can turn that into an 8. If you have 3 8s, you can turn that into a 9. So you have this garbage collection where you can actually take the lower tier cores, combine them together using gold and a special material, and then make the higher levels if you wanted. So there could be some value in like doing the like maybe level 25 or something and converting those up, but I suspect that most people would just run the strongest Descendants with the best builds, running level 30 or level 29, getting all level 10 cores, and then implanting those into their weapons. Now, what's really cool about this February 6th update is they will be adding in leaderboards. They mentioned this was going to be the, a secondary update for the second half, like second update, which means that's basically like the 3 quarters through, which is February 6th. So in 2 weeks, they're going to be adding in a leaderboard for the Void Erosion. What's great about this is you can see what the stage clear was in the time. I'm guessing this is a very simple math. They said this is just like an early version of it. It'll be a little bit cleaner than this, but you can see like basically it's probably going to filter first by highest stage and then order them based on how fast they cleared it after that. So you can see that this bunny did stage 27 in 2.5 minutes. So you can see which one's there. But what's great about this, they thought about this, which is really good. They have all the Descendants up at the top, which means that you can click on the Descendant you care about. I think this is actually very important considering the balance state that the game is in right now, because realistically, this leaderboard for all available pages is probably entirely going to be Inez for Void Erosion, because they're all going to clear stage 30 by shooting through walls, and it's going to be all Inez, which means that if you're trying to see, hey, I'm trying to clear this with Viessa, this doesn't really help me, I want to see what other Viessers are doing, you'll be able to filter by the Descendant as well. And they did mention that you'll be able to see the builds of these characters. They wrote it in text, they haven't shown it to us visually, but they said you'll be able to compare builds, which hopefully means you'll be able to click on these entries and see their weapons, their modules, their components, their inversion placements and things like that. But they only really mention this in detail as well. Study the most effective builds and compete with other Descendants to set record-breaking clear times. Hopefully this isn't just a translation error or just flavor text. They said you can be able to see it, which I think would be great. If you could actually view the leaderboard by Descendant and see what build people were running, like the entirety of the build, I think that's awesome. That's gonna help a lot of people feel like their hard work in making a good build is recognized, because they can be shown off on the leaderboards. And also it means that people that are looking to improve on any Descendant, they'll be able to find reference. And also it means that people will be incentivized to play some of the lesser popular characters, because there will be a gap in the leaderboard, right? The Inez leaderboard is going to fill up instantly, but the Jaber leaderboard might be pretty competitive depending on how things go. So it might just turn into like, hey, how high on the leaderboard can you climb on Void Erosion when you're using Kyle, right? That might be the new cool like hipster thing to do. And they showed an image of the stage 30, which looks kind of like it's like a kit bash of the Fortress map, or potentially even like the White Knight Gulch map. So it's kind of like, it does look like there's not a lot of cover here. You're kind of screwed and out in the open, and you're going to have like a level 350 Vulgus blasting you away. So this one's going to be pretty freaking scary. I imagine that this might encourage people to maybe run 3 Inezes and an Ajax, maybe, we'll see. It depends on if people do groups or not on that. And I guess that's the other thing around the leaderboard too, is if you do it in group, how does that show up on the leaderboard, that sort of thing. But I guess we'll just have to see how that goes. They mentioned that it's going to keep going up to 30 and they're going to get a lot higher and more difficult. They also mentioned that there will be a February 13th update the day before Valentine's Day. This will include winter hot spring themed update. They confirmed on Discord there are going to be bikini skins in here, so the Gooners can rejoice all on that. They're also going to have like Valentine's / hot spring themed update with all of those in there, and they're going to do a lot of quality of life updates as well. And they'll do a broadcast probably just before February 6th or maybe just after, detailing everything going into February 13th, and maybe even a sneak peek on what's going into the Season 3 update in March. And that's it for the TFD update. It was a very nice hotfix. Let me know what you think about the changes. And also, if you are a Luna main, I am so sorry that you're being yo-yoed around. Let me know what you think about the bug fix for Luna and her unique weapon down below, and also what you hope for in the February 6th update and the Valentine's update as well. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.